Grace eventually learned to say daddy before mommy. I pretended to be offended. Ethan pretended not to look smug and failed completely. For 3 days, he answered every tiny sound she made, convinced it might be another version of the word. I accused him of bribery because he gave her more attention than anyone in the house. He calmly said, babies recognized sincere devotion. I told him he was shameless. He kissed my forehead and went back to reading Grace a picture book she was eating instead of listening to. Our lives became a collection of small, ordinary scenes. Ethan cooking while Grace banged spoons. Me working at the dining table while he walked meetings in a hushed voice so she could nap. Mrs. Blackwood appearing with soup. Mr. Blackwood teaching Grace to clap. Chloe bringing dresses. Zach bringing noisy toys. Ethan immediately tried to hide. One evening, I found Ethan in the nursery, staring at Grace as she slept. The room he had ordered finished in 3 days was now lived in. Blankets, books, soft dolls, a nightlight shaped like a moon. He looked almost afraid to breathe. I knew that look. It was the same expression he had worn outside the delivery room, the same reverence from the attic chapel. Back then, he had begged heaven for a daughter. Now heaven slept in a crib, one fist open on the sheet. He noticed me and held out his hand. I walked to him. Together, we stood over our child, quiet and overwhelmed. I realized the original bargain had been wrong in every way. A son would not have freed us. A daughter had not trapped us. Love had done both, freed us from fear, and bound us where we belonged. Years later, people still like to ask how Ethan and I had fallen in love. Depending on the audience, I gave different answers. To polite strangers, I said we had married first and learned each other slowly. To friends, I admitted I had been blind, jealous, pregnant, dramatic, and lucky. To Ethan, I sometimes said he should have confessed in college, and he would look at me as if I were the one who had ignored him on purpose. He kept the old contract locked away. I found it once while organizing documents. The pages looked absurd now, full of tidy clause for a marriage that had refused to stay tidy. 1 year. Separate finances. Mutual benefit. No interference after expiration. No line mentioned midnight prayers, hospital corridors, lost necklaces, or a daughter named Grace. I wanted to throw it away. Ethan stopped me. Not because he valued the contract, but because he wanted proof of what we had survived. He said the paper showed where we began.
The paper showed where we began.
I said it showed how stupid we were. He did not disagree. Grace grew old enough to ask why Daddy cooked better than Mommy.
Daddy.
Ethan answered before I could defend myself, saying everyone had different talents.
Everyone has different talents, sweetie.
I suspected he had practiced that diplomacy from parenting books. One night, after Grace fell asleep, I asked him if he still regretted those lost years. Do you still regret those lost years? He took my hand, the ring warm between us, and looked toward our daughter's room. He did not quote anything grand. Ethan rarely did. But the quiet in his eyes told me the truth. Regret had become gratitude. Because even the wrong road had led us home. The story that began with a contract ended in a room washed with moonlight. Ethan stood by the window with Grace in his arms, and she slept against his shoulder like she owned him completely. She did. So did I. I thought of the woman I had been when I first held the pregnancy report. Terrified, convinced I was unwanted, ready to leave before I could be abandoned. I thought of Ethan at the dinner table, saying he needed a child for his parents. I thought of the cruel condition about a son, the ache in my chest, the jealous over Vivian, the attic door opening on a secret prayer. If I'd not woken thirsty that night, perhaps I would have misunderstood him for much longer. Perhaps pride would have carried me out of the marriage, and he would have let me go because fear had always made him silent. Instead, a daughter not yet born pulled the truth out of us both. Grace stirred, Ethan lowered his voice as if the whole world existed to protect her sleep. I walked over and touched her tiny hand. She closed her fingers over mine. Ethan looked at us with the softness that had once hidden beneath ice. No contract remained between us. No deadline. No condition. Only the life we had built out of mistakes, late courage, and love that had waited years to be named. I leaned against him and felt his arm settle around me. Ethan, Grace, and me. This was the answer to every fear I once had. This was the home I never knew I was walking toward. And for the first time, forever did not sound like a promise too large to trust. It sounded like us.